app on your smart speakers and on the website as well at purewestradio.com. And really good to have your company. In the final part, we're going to look back on the Six Nations rugby and some of the local action as well. But really pleased to welcome onto the show our guest this evening is the manager of Sport Pembrokeshire, and he's here to chat with us. Matt Freeman. Matt, how are you?
I'm not too bad, Ben. Thank you for having me, first and foremost.
It's really good to have you on the show. Always good to check in. And maybe first of all, for people who perhaps aren't aware of Sport Pembrokeshire, and just a recap for those that are, can you remind us what you do in the county?
Yes, certainly. So with Sport Pembrokeshire, which is a sports development arm of Pembrokeshire County Council, do a significant amount of work in schools, supporting extracurricular provision through external funding from Sport Wales, community provision as well, and then supporting all the great community clubs that exist across the authority, really, in promoting inclusion, accessing grants, and developing the grassroots offer across the county.
And you've been around now for some time, and it's great to see the work you've done supporting sport across the county, and you've really flourished, haven't you? And actually, it's a reminder just how much sporting talent we have in the county through the work you guys do, Matt.
It does, yeah. And I think the pinnacle of that every year is highlighted in reference in our annual Sport Pembrokeshire Awards, which is very much around the grassroots pathway and then the elite performance level as well in certain instances. So there is so much good that goes on across the county from a sport and physical activity perspective. And look, we're a cog in that, and a significant cog in some respects, but it is really, really pleasing and reassuring to understand and recognise the good work that does go on and how it binds the county together.
Fraser, coming in just a sec, but I think we should probably start with the Sport Pembrokeshire Awards, actually, and look back on last year's event. And I think we've all got great memories of them. I remember shivering at Folly Farm doing interviews with the winners when they came off the stage. It was the highlight every November. I love the event. How did it go this time around, Matt? And also, have you already got one eye on this year's event as well?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it was a fantastic award ceremony. Like, it was the 17th running. It was a very poignant night, really, with obviously being Mr. Bill Cahn's last awards from a compere perspective. And he was recognised by myself via the speech, but also the whole department and the people in attendance for all the hard work that he's done over the years from a voluntary capacity with the awards, but also all the other advocacy work that he has done and he will continue to do, for that matter. I think it's also worth referencing that it was the highest number of nominations that we've ever received, so that appetite from the Pembrokeshire public is very much still there, which is really, really reassuring to sort of reference. And some fantastic standout performances throughout the year. I'm moving into an Olympic year. I was asked the following Monday, actually, by my director, how do you actually top the award ceremony from last time? And I said, look, there's a distinct possibility we could have a Paralympic medalist and an Olympic Games medalist. Yeah. And that would be an absolute fantastic way to move the bar onto the next level. So fingers crossed. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Come on, Fraser.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Matt says there. Bill done that job so seamlessly for so long, and a very poignant night, and with Heather Warner, of course, winning the Lifetime Achievement. But yeah, moving on to your current work of yourself and your team, Matt, I know you're still out in schools, clubs at the moment. Do you think now with the work that the kind of work you guys do and other authorities do as well, that there is a better awareness amongst youngsters about health now and fitness?
I think there is. I think it's very much around joining the dots up. Obviously, we've got the new curriculum for Wales with health and wellbeing being an integral cog of that. But I think I look back to my sort of earlier days when I was growing up, and it was very much a limited offer, which captured my imagination and captured a lot of the imagination of some of my friends, like Ben Whitfield, who was on last week. On the programme itself, like, was a very good friend of mine in primary school and secondary school, and obviously through work as well when he was my former manager. But we enjoyed everything. But now there's such a mixed, varied and variety of opportunities out there. There's something potentially there to capture the imagination of every child, an adult for that matter. It's a case of them being exposed to it in a positive way. And I think the work that the primary and secondary active young people team do and our peripatetic PE service sort of broadens that offer and gives those children a real opportunity to find something that could actually capture their imagination, and that's important.
I'm glad you've actually touched on the diverse range available now. So I'm going to actually challenge you on something there, if you don't mind, on the balance that you kind of get. Now, growing up in a Pembrokeshire school, I think we played rugby in the winter, the girls did netball, and then we all did athletics together in the summer. And if you were really lucky in Pembrokeshire, you got to play a bit of football as well. But that was mostly confined to the yard at break. Now there's so much more available. I have young children myself. They're doing tennis, gymnastics, so much on offer through you guys and through schools themselves, to be honest. That's brilliant, of course. The wider range of sporting experiences for youngsters, the better. I think it benefits them in so many ways. But how would you offer a more diverse range of sports whilst at the same time not diluting from the quality in other sports? How do you get the balance right?
It is a bit of a challenge in some respects, because if you take the children that are very sports orientated, they will gravitate to absolutely anything that you put on. But because our primary and secondary school provision is very much tailored around children that are not engaging in physical education on a frequent basis, and very much around supporting those children to find something that could potentially capture their imagination, it doesn't conflict to a certain extent. Obviously, the PE departments do a good job around providing for the more traditional offers, and we align to more of the alternative offers first and foremost, which can be very much a mixture of just turn up and play, which can be a starting point and a catalyst for them potentially moving on to the PE offer, the after school provision, the more traditional, but also into the strong community club structure that does exist as well. I think it is important that we do provide opportunities. We'll probably touch on this in a conversation later on, but resources are not finite. They're getting stretched more and more, and we have to ensure that we do align it as effectively as we potentially can. And that's just one example of how we currently do that.
Maybe we should take the opportunity to talk about that, Matt, because I mentioned the longevity of Sport Pembrokeshire, and we've already touched on some of the great things you've achieved across the county. But it must be challenging for councils across Wales, across the whole of the UK. It's challenging, and funding isn't infinite, and it's hard to come by, isn't it? How have you dealt with that? And that must, in the current climate, present a real challenge for you to be able to deliver the quality of the services you want to do.
It does, and I think to this current point, we have been quite fortunate from a external funding perspective from Sport Wales, and obviously internally with the authority itself. Moving forward, probably the next 2 to 3 years are going to be particularly challenging, to say the least. But I actually look at the opportunities that exist out there and try and sort of shape our thinking around that. There's lots of other ways in which you can access funding. We are very, very fortunate as a department and service to be corporately sponsored by Valero, and the finance that we receive from them is greatly appreciated. And that does help support our wider offers to schools in particular and community provision. There is a new funding mechanism that's coming into play from April 2025 via Sport Wales. So they've created a regional West Wales Sport Partnership. So we'll be working across the Swansea Bay city footprint area, coupled with some key other stakeholders. And working in collaboration could potentially open some wider opportunities. Health around the table. I know health, their budgets are stretched significantly, to say the least. But I think we need to work collaboratively. We're a small cog in something that could potentially really help support the NHS across Wales. And that's really important, having them around the table. And I think we just need to connect even more effectively than we currently are.
In a way, is sport or recreational exercise, however you want to put it, better suited to adapt to financial pressures and maybe other departments? Look, we're all, ever since COVID, it seems we've been talking about it, haven't we, that companies in and outside of sport, there are budget constraints for everyone. The purse strings seem to be tightening in everything except Premier League football wages, to be honest. But But with sport, there is an improved base of facilities there in Pembrokeshire, far exceeding what I experienced. I was going to say 2 decades ago in school, maybe even a bit longer than that now. Time's getting on, but and of course, there are outdoor exercises you can do as well. It's not always about having a state-of-the-art indoor facility, and there's health things you could promote which actually cost nothing. They're just a way of adapting lifestyle. So in that respect, can sport be fortunate in that it is not something that is completely dependent on expensive facilities?
Indeed, no, and I concur with that, Fraser. I'm probably a couple of years older than you, so when you mentioned 2 decades ago, it sort of didn't resonate with me around the facilities that were available.
It's only just hit me, actually.
The county at that point. So, and I think the pandemic sort of illustrated that, where we were at the very beginning of the pandemic when we were allowed out for a period of time, just from a physical activity perspective or a well-being perspective. Lots of people took that opportunity to start walking, some running, some cycling. You don't necessarily require state-of-the-art facilities. Now, we are fortunate, and I'm just going to throw this in here now, that the facilities that exist in our county currently are fantastic in comparison to where they have been, like the Haverford Sports Village in particular. Amazing. The investment that's gone there, but also coupled down in Henry Tudor School as well, the 3G facilities that we've got available in the county. But it is really important, and I'm just going to plug something very, very briefly here now. It's not the final figure for the financial year, but one of the pots of funding available via Sport Wales, the Be Active Wales Fund, to date, we've had almost £500,000 of investment into Pembrokeshire through our community sport clubs, and that's really, really significant. So that's supporting facility development, but also it's supporting volunteering through a coach development perspective, and then equipment coming into the authority for these clubs as well. So there's lots of really good things that are going on, and we support clubs to access that to a certain extent, and it's great. That's just one avenue of funding that they've been successful in applying for and receiving that figure.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. And one thing I also wanted to talk to you about as well, Matt, I think Pembrokeshire has a real proud tradition and history and a really good tradition and history of giving people with disabilities the chance to take part in sport. And we've got some brilliant achievers in that field. How proud are you at Sport Pembrokeshire of the progress that's been made in that area?
I think we've been very, very fortunate over the past more than a couple of years. We've had Angela Miles, who was the former Disability Development Officer, who was really championing inclusion, and it's something that she has successfully embedded across the team and the partners that we work with, which is really important. And we have been very, very fortunate that we've had a number of individuals who've moved and progressed through that pathway to to elite honours, and it's just giving those children the opportunity and the adults that opportunity, because it's really important that they find something. And just because they have a disability or an additional learning need, they should be provided those opportunities. And 1 in 5 of the population does have a disability. So we do need to be actively providing those opportunities. And I think the work that our primary and secondary school staff do, making sure that everything is as inclusive as possible and being able to adapt that provision to support those children, is really, really important. And it's something that we're really proud of as an authority. We're one of, if not the leading authority on inclusion across the whole of Wales.
Yeah, it's great to hear. It really is. And obviously, we started by saying about the Sport Pembrokeshire Awards, and I'm sure you've got one eye, as you said, on what might come later on this year. But I imagine generally it is just busy at the moment, as well as we head into the spring and into the summer.
Indeed, yes, yeah. And I think the awards itself, as soon as that weekend had passed, it was all about, we're booking in the date for the next awards ceremony, and then obviously looking to ensure how can we improve the event and the experience of the children and the adults in attendance, and some for the very, very first time. But it is busy at the moment. The school-based staff are very, very busy. We're doing a lot more community engagement and providing free opportunities there in particular, and very much targeting around specific areas of geography. So Haverford West, Milford, Fishguard and Pembroke from a a poverty perspective, supporting the poverty agenda. That is obviously cost of living crisis that's really, really challenging at this moment in time. And we're working collaboratively with a number of organisations on a project called Fit and Fed. So they deliver sport and physical activity whilst providing nutritious meals as well, which is really important as well. So we've got the likes of Milford Youth Matters, the Tan Yard, Hartford Youth Club, Milford Youth Club, and ourselves, Sport Pembrokeshire, providing opportunities across this half term and other school holidays as well. So it's really, really good.
Matt,
Excellent stuff.
Sorry, Ben, just going to say, we had Ben Field on the show last week. Like you said, he's obviously in your role for a long time while you were on his team, but still, it is one thing maybe observing their own, and no doubt you'd have known a lot about it before you stepped into it, but now you have stepped into it. Has it been everything that you envisaged?
It has, and significantly more, to be perfectly honest. I think he got out at the right time from a financial perspective, in the sense of what the challenges were potentially coming ahead. Obviously, as he referenced last week, he's in a different sphere from a finance perspective currently, where he's recruiting staff, which is fantastic.
He's on a freebie trip to Qatar, mate. So he's on a different financial sphere to most people, if I'm honest.
But no, it has been to a certain extent what I expected. I think moving forwards from a advocacy perspective, making the department and influencing key stakeholders, whether that's within the organisation, at a senior leadership team perspective, the county councils, the cabinet members, making them aware of the really good work that we do, not just from a engagement in sport and physical activity, but the additional benefits that provides for the residents of Pembrokeshire as well. And that's where I see my role sort of veering a little bit more towards over the coming years because of the financial challenges.
Yeah, it was always telling whenever I deal with Sport Pembrokeshire that the passion you all had for your role, and it's still really evident tonight, Matt. So that's great to hear. Listen, keep up the good work. It's a pleasure to have you on the show this evening, and you are always welcome. And it's exciting to think that the scripts haven't even been written yet for this year's Sports Awards, and who knows, there might be some exciting stuff still to come, as you said, with a Paris Olympics and Paralympics to come in August. Matt, keep up the good work, and all the best to your team as well. Thank you very much for being with us. We are going to come back in just a sec for the final part of tonight's Pure West Sport.
Situated at the heart of Milford Waterfront,